Welcome back to another Crafty Like a Fox video. Today we're back over at my mother-in-law's house and we're working on a makeover project in her back garden. On the back of her garage here, she has this fairly blank wall and she kind of built a little patio and put a bench on it and said that she'd really like to do something on either side of the bench with a couple topiaries or containers or something like that. So the first thing I did was take a photo of the area and then open it up on the computer and use paint to kind of put some different options in there. Originally she thought that she might want a boxwood, perhaps like just a big lollipop topiary boxwood. And it turned out after we put in a planter with a boxwood like that and overlaid it over the image of this, she decided she didn't really like the look of that very much. So that was nice to know before we went through the trouble and expense of buying them and planting them up. So we looked at some other options and she has a lot of Limelight Hydrangeas around that she loves. So we thought, why not look at maybe a standard Limelight Hydrangea, a tree form hydrangea. And we found a beautiful container with one in, a photo online, and cut that out, overlaid it over the image, and it looked a little bit like this. And she really fell in love with it. So we went ahead and picked up a couple trees and planters and some plants, some annuals to plant underneath of it. And we're gonna go ahead and get those planted up for her today and install that to the drip system as well so that she can control the watering of it. So stay tuned and we'll see how it turns out. All right, so these are the two containers that we're gonna use. And before we start filling them with soil, we wanna make sure there's drainage in them. These don't currently have any holes. So I'm just gonna use a drill to pop a few drain holes in them. As you can see, there's some grooves here, which will help when we want to run the drip tube through the inside. So I'm going to add another hole explicitly for the drip tube to come in and enter the pot. So I'll do the same thing on this one. Maybe. Who needs batteries when you can just press it through the container? All right. So these are ready to be filled with soil. I will get them put into place and get the drip tube run through it and we'll get it filled up. All right, again, so I'm gonna find that hole that I made that's near the groove in the bottom of the planter. This hole just a little bit bigger. There we go. I'm just gonna pull enough through to hang over the edge while we fill it with soil, and I'll do the same thing over here to this one. And bring an excess out to connect eventually to the water supply. Now we're ready to add in our potting soil. When choosing containers for a large shrub or tree that you're going to keep out over winter, it's a good idea to make sure that you find one that's going to stand up to freezing temperatures. We've used plastic here. Some ceramics and porcelain need to be brought indoors and protected from freezing, so you should take that in consideration. They're great if you have more of a tropical species that you want to bring into your greenhouse or your home over winter and it's not going to freeze. Otherwise, you might need to take the plants out of the planters and plant them in the ground over winter. So another thing to take into consideration if you're going to create a large container centerpiece kind of like we're doing here today. So I'm going to just kind of dry fit it right now. So it's sitting high by about 3 inches or so. So I'm going to move the soil below it and kind of make a well to sit this down in before we take the pot off of it and transplant it. And then I can fill in with some more soil around when I'm done. All right, so I gave the pot a good few whacks on the side to help loosen up the root ball inside of the planter. Looks like this has a really good healthy root system on it. Lots of little roots reaching out to the edges, but nothing spiraling around, so it's in really good condition. Looks like it's still sitting a little high, so I'm going to remove a little soil first. And I'm going to sit it back in here again. That looks better. It's sitting just below the lip of the container. Now I'm going to take a step back and look to see what side I want to face out. I think if we turn the support towards the wall, it should look pretty good. Leaning a little to its left, so I'm just going to add a little more soil underneath of it, and I think we're ready to start planting a little more soil around. I'm using my fingers just kind of like you would run them through your hair to just make sure that the soil's getting settled in around there and we don't have any air pockets that are gonna let roots dry out or promote water retention, can cause rot. There we go, and you can see that I've brought the soil level up even with the soil level of the root ball. I'm not really adding any more on top of it. I might have to take a little bit out. We're going to plant some annuals in here next, but this looks good for now. So let's grab the annuals. So I've got 2 annuals that we're going to plant in here. The first one we're going to plant kind of into the middle is Diamond Frost Euphorbia. It's a very light ethereal plant that has these little stems that come out with very dainty white flowers on them, and they'll kind of hover a little bit and kind of bridge the gap between the container and the standard. And then the other annual we're using is the Supertunia Priscilla. It is a double petunia in this beautiful pale clear lavender color with dark purple veining. I think it's going to look beautiful under here. So we've got 3 of the petunias and 2 of the euphorbias. So I'm going to work on getting these planted in, and we're going to have to kind of nestle them into the root ball a little bit because this takes up so much of the surface area of the container, but I think everything will turn out just fine. So the last thing I'm gonna do is come in and replace these bands that are holding the trunk of the standard to the cane that is supporting it. As you can see, especially on this lower one, it's really starting to girdle the plant. And as it bears down on it, the water isn't gonna make it up through the outside edge of the plant very well. So I'm gonna take these off and replace them with a Velcro that's a little bit softer and give it a little bit of wiggle room so that it won't be so restricted. The Velcro has two different sides. The Velcro has two different sides. One is rough and the other side is soft. So you want to make sure that you have the softer side towards the plant. So I'm going to go a little bit below where it was before, just so that I'm not stressing that portion of the plant out anymore where it already was. And I've got it on there loose enough that I can still kind of swivel it around, but there's a strong wind or something that comes through, it's not going to pull it off of the support. And then I'll do the same thing down here. Again, starting at the soft side of the plant, or the soft side of the Velcro against the plant. If it's too loose and it's moving around too much, it can cause some friction damage against the plant. So you don't want it to be too loose, but you don't want it to be too snug, kind of like tying your shoes. You want that happy medium. You don't want to cut off circulation to your foot, but you don't want your shoes to fall off either. And then as the season progresses and this roots in more to the soil that we have in the container, it might be sturdy enough that you can take this support out. It's just going to be something that you're going to have to kind of, test and see as the months go on if it seems like it's seated really well in there. But this is a fairly mature plant, so I'm not too concerned about it. This is mainly used for training it to get it into this final form, and now that it's there and it roots into the container, we should be good to let it breathe a little bit and lose that support sometime within the next season or two. The drip tube in the first container has 8 emitters in it, so I'm going to make sure that I have 8 emitters in this one as well. I anticipate that they will need about the same amount of water, so we're going to start with that, and if we need to adjust it as the season goes on, we can. Sun came out and it got warm, but we've got this project done. We have both containers filled with the hydrangea trees and with the annuals, and I can't wait to see how they progress this season. We'll be sure to follow up and give you guys some updates. The last thing that we have to do in this area is fill this blank void above my head. In the very rough rendering that we showed you earlier, we anticipate getting some kind of black metalwork clock or compass rose, some kind of wall art to hang up there. So I'll update later in the season once we've got that hung up and once the flowers grow on. But I think these turned out really great. It really makes this area feel cozy and lively at the same time. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching.